Ladies and gentlemen, can you give a huge coffee and natter welcome to our keynote speaker, Susanne Virtanen. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Great turnout. So thanks Ian for that introduction. As you know, my name is Susanne. And today is all about how to transform your leadership performance. Now, it's great to have heard obviously from so many different people in so many different types of businesses, and that's the beauty of obviously running your own business and being the manager or being your own boss, is that you can create the kind of career and business that you really want. And importantly, just like Ian said, it's all about reaching your ambitions. So hopefully you will get a few tips and techniques today, and it's not actually just going to be me talking, so I'm actually going to ask you to do a few things as well, because I believe that if there's no challenge, if there's no activity, no change happens. So that's why I'd actually like you to stand up, and for at least 3 people, what I'd like you to do is actually high five them and say that you rock. At least 3 people. Great, thank you very much. Congratulations for being here, because there are a lot of other commitments this week that people have, so you should be very proud that you're here today, because it's the action takers and it's the people who also, you were saying earlier about public speaking, it's about communicating with people, meeting new people, making connections where really all that difference is made in your business. So, what to expect from this session? Now, I'm going to give a brief overview of my background, just so that you kind of know why am I here today, what brings me here, and why am I talking about what I'm going to be talking about. I'm very passionate about the subject that I'm going to be sharing with you. And as I said, we're going to do a few discussions as well. You've got a bit of a handout. There's a few of them flying around, so I'm not sure if you've had a look at it yet. However, you will do, and you'll be reflecting and discussing with other people as well, a little bit about you and about your business and about your ambitions. Then I'm going to share something that I've developed over the years, which is called the 4 A's of growth. And that applies not just to your personal life, but also for your business life. Because it's not just about trying all the time, taking new strategies. It's about actually reflecting also where you are now and how to get the best out of you. And that's what today is really about, how to maximize and optimize your performance. And then we're going to have a look at your character, because we are all very different, as we know. And the types, the ways that you communicate with other people always differs. But it also can cause sometimes issues with your business, because, and whether it's a business or not, it can be difficult to communicate sometimes with people, and conflict happens all the time. So, how to understand your character and how to especially optimize your communication skills. And that's where I'm going to be sharing a few growth strategies with you. Now, I'm not sure if you knew from the accent from before, but I'm actually originally from Finland. How many have visited Finland? Anybody? No, not many? Okay, 1 or 2. How many have met other Finnish people before? Okay, so a few. You've probably met quite a few of them actually, but you wouldn't probably know about it because they don't talk a lot. So, you know, I actually had to move when I was 18 because I didn't really fit in. And that's actually just a picture of our cabin. Finnish people, a lot of Scandinavians, they have a lovely summer cabin. So I grew up really in the nature, and it's lovely, you know, midnight sun and everything. It's amazing. The sun doesn't basically set at the night at all. And my partner actually, David, who's taking the pictures there in the corner, a few times he's come with me obviously, and waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's still sunny. So it's quite odd. But I gotta say, I've always been super energetic, and something that I've always really focused on is studying. And I'm a very career-oriented person, so I will never try and give you any fitness advice. Probably you're the ones that will handle that part. But I believe in business especially, it's really important that you develop your career based on something that you are really passionate about, because then you can get easily excited and make a really good impression on the people that you're working with. Not just your staff, but especially the customers. Now, something that I have always done, I've always been very adventurous. So I did a parachute jump also last year. But what I actually did when I turned 18 is I moved around in Europe quite a lot. So I lived in Holland, in France, in Spain, and then I moved to the UK. So I was doing a lot of management studies at the time and changing from one country to another. I was very, very critical of my environment and always expecting a lot from other people and from the environment. Why not? Of course, it's very important that you do that in your life. And I moved around a lot, and I have to say, after working in hospitality for about 15 years, I then started working as a manager and then became really passionate about training and development. And that is exactly what I do. So I have been, over the years, been developing coaching. I was a life coach for a couple of years, and then I started doing a lot more business coaching and leadership training. And what I'm really passionate about is, just like Ian said, empowering people to find something that they are truly passionate about and build on that, because once you do that and do something that you really get motivated and excited by, you will be followed by other people. You will have that charisma, but that's why it's so important that you reflect on actually who you are. I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but we don't often sit and think, what do we really want and where are we going and how to get there in the most efficient ways. And I have been doing a range of training over the years, so just a quick overview of what DiscoverChange Ltd is about. In a nutshell, I deliver a variety of business training and development. This is for new businesses, but also for existing businesses, particularly when it comes to leadership training and change management. Now, this is especially when companies are going through extensive transformations. A lot of the time, don't we focus on the IT side of things, which is great. IT is very important, but sometimes it's the people development side and understanding how to communicate with each other in the most effective ways to get the best out of the person that you're working with. And that's not just for, when I talk about leadership, it's not just about working as a leader and leading a team. It's also about leading yourself. It's how effective are you in your performance? Because if you feel rubbish every day, it's very difficult to be productive. Everybody's busy all the time, but are you actually being productive? And that comes down to taking, of course, the right steps. And I actually collaborate with another fantastic training organization on the delivery of a variety of business training, particularly marketing and structuring and business automation. Now, as said, I do some motivational speaking, especially for you as well, Janet. Earlier on you said about women. I really want to empower more women to start a business, because guess what women often say? I don't know if the ladies in the room can relate to that, but they say, I'm not a business person. I'm not a salesperson. All I want to do is help people. That's what business is about, right? Sometimes we overcomplicate and we have these barriers that are limiting us from performing the best we can. But it all comes down to your thinking and the way you perceive yourself. If you perceive yourself in a negative light and you have very negative language about yourself, it's very difficult to make that good impression on other people. Now, of course, there's one-to-one support and business masterminds as well. But those business masterminds, they are particularly for people who are very passionate about reaching very, very high goals in their business. So especially scaling and automating the business to make it run as efficiently as possible. But that's enough about me and DiscoverChange Ltd. Why has everything taken place for me personally is because I particularly realized that I had limitless potential. You know, all the time I would start new courses, do these courses and start behaving in different ways that would help me progress. But that's the same thing for me working in education and training for a long time, is exactly like many of you said, when you help someone and then you see them progress and they thank you, you should take that very seriously and be very proud of that you've made a difference in somebody's life. And because I don't want to flatter myself, but because I was getting some of this feedback quite often in my jobs, I realized that, you know, this is something that I really want to do and help people succeed in what they do through a variety of training. So that's why I want you to actually now think, what is it that you want more in your life? What is it that you want more in your business? What is it? And actually when I say life and business, if you are in business, can I actually have a show of hands? Who has their own business or who is the manager of the business? Okay, so a little bit more than half. Now, it's not that easy. However, obviously, when you spend a lot of time in that business, you are the business, aren't you? As a leader, you are absolutely the business. But it depends on what you want as well. Have you got a clear direction of where your business and career is going? So I would like you to think, before we start on a lot more, I would actually like you to share something with the person next to you or behind you, whatever is the most convenient. What do you want more of? What do you want more of in your business? But also, what do you want less of? So think about two things. And don't overthink, because we are obviously going to be within a time limit. It's probably the first gut feeling that you've got. You always want something specific, whether it's about economics, whether it's about more connections, or and actually, funnily enough, a couple of weeks ago, somebody said, I want more happiness and less misery. So maybe try and be a little bit more specific. Exactly what is it that you want? So take about 30 seconds each. So just continue the sentence with the person next to you or behind you, whatever works best, and share with that person what is it that you'd like more or less of. We could probably create a list out of everything. Can I just have a few shouts? Just what did people say you want more of? What would you like to have more of? Yeah?
We both said that we wanted to be more international.
More international? Okay, so expansion as well. Okay, great. What else?
Leads.
Leads, more leads. Great. What else?
Connections.
Sorry?
Connections.
Connections, yeah, absolutely. What about less? What do you want less of?
Waste.
Waste.
Hassle.
Yes, what else?
Hassle.
Hassle.
Doing business.
Okay. Yes, so a little bit to make it a little bit easier and more efficient. Great. What else? Admin. Yes, yeah, I can relate to that. Great. So what happens a lot of the time is, and something that I like to say is that you can't hit a target that you don't have. What we want to do is get really clear on where your business is going and make sure that your targets are actually, this is quite self-explanatory, but make sure that they are actually measurable. When we say we want less stress, what does that actually mean? You know, is it less, what kind of hassle would that be? So what we want to do is especially write these down, because we have so much going on in our minds, especially when you are a manager, it can get very stressful and overwhelming. Now that's why it's really important that you have clear targets. And everybody's got plans. Everybody wants to make positive changes in their life, right? Everybody wants some changes. But then you got to ask, is it okay? Are you okay for changes? Are you expecting changes? But are you saying no for changing? So it is really about how you react to those challenges in the business. And really, if you want your life to get better, if you want your business to get better, you have to get better in few things. And when I say that build on your strengths and something that is unique to you, of course that doesn't necessarily require change. However, often what I encourage people to do is be yourself. Sounds a bit of a cliche, but actually to dare to be yourself requires change. It requires a mindset shift a lot of the time. So if you want your life to get better and business to get better, you have to get better, because as the leader, you are the business. Every decision that you make during the day, it impacts on the business, on the future of that business. And it's the quality of those decisions that create the quality of your business as well. So what is leadership really? Because this is a bit of a term. Not everybody likes this term. So what do people think? What is leadership? What is it about really? Any ideas? Yeah.
Taking control.
Taking control. Okay. Yeah. What else?
Taking ownership.
Taking ownership. Absolutely.
They have a vision.
Have ambition. Yeah.
And
vision.
guide people to the future.
Absolutely.
Doing things right as opposed to always doing the right thing.
Ah, excellent. Absolutely. But we don't always know what's the right thing to do we, as well? So sometimes it's a matter of perception. And we'll come back to that. But something, I like definitions. I think it's nice to start with a definition. It's action or ability of leading a group or an organization, or people or an organization. So actually leadership isn't necessarily just about leading a team. It's also about leading yourself. But especially if you're a sole trader, you have to lead a customer through a process as well. Many many people who are sole traders don't perceive themselves as leaders when they absolutely are. If you step into business, you absolutely are a leader. But what kind of leader? And when it comes to doing the right thing, it's about building on your values, because one way of leading, as long as it's right, you know, you're not harming anybody or hurting anybody, it's okay. But then somebody could be completely different and they could still get an excellent result. So it's also about integrity. But something that I like talking about is transformational leadership, and it's about what kind of vision you have for the future. So if you have a very empowering vision also for the community, because as business owners, you can, and leaders, whether you're a business owner or not, but as leaders, you can change aspects of the community. You truly can, and we should never underestimate that. Sometimes we say, oh, it's all the big boys and the big organizations that do X, Y, and Z, but we can have an impact on that, and we can impact on people in different ways. Especially when I've been working in education, I've noticed that a lot of people have a lot of barriers from education. And those barriers, even one sentence, a lady told me that she was told by her teacher that she was stupid in front of the class when she was 8 years old, and now she was in her mid-60s, and that sentence had affected her whole life. So one single conversation, sometimes one single word, you can have a huge impact on a person. Maybe there are even times in your past when somebody has said something to you when you were a kid and it wasn't very nice, and we still remember that at some level. Now, those aspects can have a huge impact on your performance and on your mindset and how you perceive yourself, but also how you perceive other people. Now, leadership particularly, it's about empowering and motivating people to take action even when they don't feel like it. I don't know if you've been working in an organization sometimes when you do something for the manager, even if you absolutely resisted doing it, but you wanted to impress them. You wanted to make them happy. Maybe as a manager you've had that situation when somebody does something just for you. So it's about how you communicate with those people, with the people that are whether in your team or with your customers. But what is really the difference between leadership and management? Because funnily enough, actually, when I translate this word in Finnish, in my language, the word is almost identical. Are they the same thing? No? What is the difference?
Leadership is more like where you show somebody how to do something, and management is telling them how to do it rather than showing them, encouraging them.
Okay, yeah, could be, absolutely.
Leadership is people focused and management is process focused.
Yes.
Leadership often works with long-term target, and management is more like a short-term achieve and end target.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Great answers. Yeah, absolutely. Leadership is mainly about that vision that you might have and how you empower and show other people along the way to reach that vision. And management is about the processes. Now, you can be both, but sometimes you can't always be efficient in both. Either there are sometimes great leaders, empowering leaders who aren't necessarily that efficient in managing, but I think understanding of both is crucial, especially if you have a business and you are also running a team of some kind. But I think it's a lot easier to tell people what to do than sometimes follow our own advice. Maybe you've been in business already, or you're thinking about starting a business and people have loads of advice to give you, right? Everybody gives advice to people. We love giving advice, right? But actually, there's something really important that we have to also, especially in terms of effective leadership, to think is, can I follow my own advice? Can I follow what I demand from other people? Sometimes we expect other people to change, and we're thinking, what is the matter with you? Why can you not do this? I've told you 1,000,000 times, and you're still not doing it right. But it's how you've communicated also with that person. But so many times, and this is something, you know, Mum, love you to bits, but Mum has said this to me quite often, you know, don't do as I do, just do as I say, it will be better for you. But it's about leading by example, isn't it? We have to, as leaders, especially lead by example with our behavior and with our communication skills. It's if you are training others to be better at customer service, get more leads, and make more sales, marketing and sales, most important 2 skills in your business. How are you performing How are you training them? Are you leading by example? Are you able to create those relationships with the customers the way you expect the staff to do? So it's very, very important that you have those conversations also with your staff and listen to them. Sometimes managers say, I don't know what my team wants. I don't know what they want. How can we find out what they want? Ask them. Yeah, absolutely. Just ask. Sometimes we expect people to know what to do, don't we? Especially as managers. Well, I've told you many times, but actually it's about, have you told it to that person in their way? Have you really listened to them? Now, in effective leadership, it's got plenty. I could carry on several hours about this, but I won't. Obviously, it's about having that powerful vision, but it's about developing yourself first. Because a lot of the time, if we do not understand another person or the idea behind their actions, it's because you don't understand your own actions. So the better you understand your own motivators, values and actions, the better you can impact on the people that you are managing. But then you have to be persuasive in what you stand for. And you were saying earlier about public speaking, how important that is sometimes, obviously, and doing the right thing and being persistent in an area that is right for the society and for people's benefits and for their well-being. But you got to be persuasive, because are you going to get no's as a manager? Absolutely. You probably get 9 no's to 1 yes, or whatever ratio you might be working at. However, you got to be persuasive, and you have to have that powerful vision so that you will not give in. Because being in business, being a manager, is really tough at times. It really is. So you have to have that strong vision so that you can keep pushing yourself. But then that comes down to influential communication. We'll come back to that. And understanding of others' needs. And again, I always throw it back to you, is understand your own needs first, and then you can communicate that effectively with others. But very importantly, and like you were saying, doing the right thing, but having integrity. Don't just say that you're going to do one thing, but then performing completely differently, and then not even admitting that. Sometimes, especially as managers, it can be tough to admit that we're wrong, right? We are often, especially management and leadership positions, we are the most stubborn people, right? And that's why I wanted to congratulate you in the beginning, because there's something that you are doing differently from others. But a lot of the time, we got to admit when things aren't necessarily working as well, and it's all about the questions you ask. So if you have a problem, if you have lots of challenges in your business, it's not because you're a bad manager or because you're a bad person or whatever. I hope not anyway. But it's about asking and formulating the right questions rather than focusing on the problem and saying, why is this happening to me? Why is everybody behaving so negatively towards me? Or why do I always fail in this? Actually, what you should ask instead is, what can I do next time? What did I learn from this person? And move on from there, and don't take rejection personally. If you're in business and you take rejection personally, you are in trouble, because there is a lot of rejection and challenges that will happen. But then you can also minimize those rejections if you know who to advertise for. And that's the key. A lot of the time, you don't necessarily know who your ideal customer actually is. So if you are trying to market to everybody, you will probably get a lot of no's, and that's very demoralizing. That's why we've got to get really clear on who are you actually advertising for, so that can be portrayed in your message and in social media and whatever marketing tools you are using. And of course then, that's about continuous improvement. And this is now where I would like to share the 4 A's of growth. I said earlier that, and that you're here to make connections and learn something different and do something new, but a lot of the time we just focus on doing the new, rather than actually understanding what is really going on right now. And the first step is awareness, is that you have to become aware of who you are, what your values are, what your identity is, and take full responsibility. Take full responsibility. Sometimes we say, oh, it's not my fault, I'm in this situation. It's my mum, it's my dad, it's my husband, or it's my kids. And then you're pointing at the blame. but then 3 fingers are pointing at you. And those 3 fingers stand for 3 words, and that's I am responsible. I'm responsible for whatever is happening in my life at this moment in time, and whatever has come to my life, because it's come through the decisions and choices you've made. But take pride in that. It gives you a sense of freedom when you realize that you can do whatever you want. And that's the beauty about having a business as well, because you can create whatever kind of business you want. That's really powerful. But then what we have to do, and this is very important, is that you actually accept who you are. Don't we most of the time we focus on something that we are not good at and what's still missing, and even what other people are not good at and what's frustrating in them, when really what we should do is just take a moment and actually accept who we are and stop self-sabotage, stop the negative language, and stop saying every time, you know, a problem happens, oh, it's happened again, it's me, it's my fault, or it's the person's fault. It doesn't have to be anybody's fault. We have to be really careful what kind of language we use. And that's where we come to appreciation. The 3rd step is to appreciate who you are. Because if you keep constantly fighting against your nature, against something that comes really naturally for you, say, example of me, I can say that, you know, in Finland, if I was, you know, given a penny for every time somebody told me that I talk too much, I would be a billionaire by now. But the thing is that I actually identify that, I can utilize that in a different environment, and I have to appreciate that. But you have to have a positive mindset and perceive yourself that way. It's about how you communicate with yourself. What do you say to yourself, but also what do you say to other people? And this is especially with regards to leadership. Sometimes we are desperately trying to change the staff or the way that somebody's working, even a child. Parenting is leadership. Teaching others is leadership as well. We are desperately trying to change the other person and laying all these expectations on them, rather than actually going through this when we are aware of their strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes weakness can be your strengths. But then we have to appreciate it and make sure that we have very positive language. And only then we can start adapting. Only then we should start taking different types of strategies so that you can at least be as efficient as possible. I don't know about you, but I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in their first couple of years, and many have done a gazillion things before they actually get started, or they have done a million things, but they keep failing. They can't quite pull it through. It's because they're always trying to adapt and find new ways without going through a process where you actually are much more understanding of you and your situation. So how can you be at your best? How can you be the best possible you? It comes down to your awareness of yourself and your character and your values. And now you've got a handout that I've given. I've put a few here and there. And we're going to do a little bit of an activity now. Because what's important is that the more aware you are of yourself, the more consistent you will be towards other people as well. Because you don't have to have all the customers. Sometimes, many of you are in type of business that you only maybe need 5 customers. But the more you know what type of customer that is, maybe it's a similar person to you and your values. You communicate this through everything you do and everything you say. So, there are 4 different types of characters. I mentioned earlier that I do leadership training and change management, and that is highly focused on psychometrics, something that is using personality assessments with very structured format. So obviously, because in this moment in time we won't be able to do that, we haven't got the tools and the time, I've simplified the process a little bit so that you can start looking at what type of character you are and what types of values you have. Now, those 4: warrior, sage, guardian, and adventurer. Now the warrior. Now, and as I'm saying, maybe you can have a read through at the same time, but you can also think what sounds the most like you. Warrior is very competitive. They are very target driven, quite delegative, and quite straightforward people. There's a lot more I could say about each, but I'm just going to give an overview. Sage is somebody who is very much focused on personal development, on wisdom, knowledge, and loves harmony in the workplace. Those people that just want everybody to be okay. Guardian, on the other hand, is very much focused on roots, on legacy, on taking responsibility. And that is probably, obviously, the word says itself as well, is a person who is quite a parenting style, maybe a very nurturing type of person. Now, adventurer, on the other hand, is somebody who challenges convention, is always looking for new and fresh, and actually doesn't like to be maybe micromanaged, and won't micromanage other people either, because they like that freedom. And they are particularly focused on being self-reliant and always taking full responsibility. But you know, there's lots to say of each. But what I'd like you to do is, because there's one on each row, or two on each row, is share with the person next to you. I think there's one if you're not sitting on it. And have a look, which one do you think is the most like you? Just for a moment. Anybody else need? Yep. And then you're going to do then you're going to do a bit of an activity with the person next to you. Oh, it's going to be 10 for sure. Do you need? Oh, you're okay. So, what you need to do is, because we are under time pressure. So, because to make this as efficient as possible, I'm going to have you talk with your partner, the one that you talked with before, and actually continue this sentence. So you have 1 minute each. You have to be really, really quick. You start and share this. The star that is least like me is, and you carry on. The star that sounds the most like me is which one? And then how can this be seen in what you do every day and what really motivates you? And then also think about, what is your strength? What could potentially be your weakness? And what can you learn from other people? So, first person, 1 minute, and then you have to swap. So I'll tell you when the minute has gone. I know it's very challenging because it's maybe something that you haven't thought about before. So you got to get cracking. So time starts now. Right, so I think we could carry on for a very long time. However, we have to move on. So how was this? So really under time pressure, how was it? How was the exercise?
Excellent.
Excellent?
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. For me, I thought immediately I was the warrior.
Yep.
For 35 years as purchasing director at Rolls I was. But I've changed in 6 months, running my own business at Bedfordshire.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What else? What else came up? What do you think, Richard?
I think it did make you sort of in the focus on what you want to do, and realise basically that you've got 2 ears and you've only got 1 mouth. Basically, you've got to listen to what other people are saying. And
absolutely. Okay. So that's interesting. How did you come up with that, although you're really talking about yourself?
Because I want to tell people what I want for myself and what I'd like them to do.
Good.
But to perhaps develop the business is to listen to what they want.
Absolutely.
And develop on that.
Absolutely, and that's the important part. And of course, I really want to encourage you to spend some time on this at home and think about your values and your character, because the more consistent you are with this, you can also input this into your copywriting, so to what you display in social media, because trust me, there will be people who will be more drawn to you. Surprisingly, it's either exactly like you, or it's probably what? The opposite. It might be complete opposite, because they might aspire to be like you. Who knows? There are lots of different ways to look at this, and I would love to go into detail. But this is the important question, is what can I learn about other people? Sometimes we're so desperately thinking, you know, why is that customer not saying that yes, you know, I've done everything I could? Why is the staff member not doing what I'm telling them to do? But it's what can we learn from other people through this exercise, and lots more exercises similar to this. What can we learn about others?
How they operate, their style of thinking, what their values are. How
Yeah.
their values, do they complement ours? Do they link in with each other? Are we actually going to get on with each other?
Absolutely, absolutely. And how you're communicating with other people, and what actually motivates them. Because if you want to get a person to do something, you need to use their language. I'm not saying to be different from you and pretend to be something else. Definitely not. That's why this exercise is important. But what's actually important to think is, how do you come across to other people? Because it's easy enough to blame on the other person when actually it's something that you said. Even in relationships, you know, the lady might say, you know, it's not what you said, it's
How you said it.
it's how you said it. Oh, so you've had that too. Sorry, Dave. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of difference in how you can portray your message. And really, business is all about giving a lot of value to people. And more importantly, building rapport is your most important skill. Building rapport is your most important skill. So let's think about the aspects of communication. Now, I'm sure some of you have seen this before, actually, but repetition is the mother of all learning, right? Communication consists of 3 things. There are plenty of theories on this, but this is just one of them. Words, body language, and tone. Now, when you are looking at someone, when you're listening to them, or when you're communicating with them, where do you think we pay most attention to?
Body language.
Body language, yeah, absolutely. So 55 is body language. What comes next?
Tone.
Yeah. Absolutely. So really, if you think about it, when you've had a conversation with somebody 2 days ago, how well did you really listen to them? You know, you have probably no idea what they actually said, and they probably have no idea what you said. They will remember how you said it, what impact you made on them, what atmosphere did you create. Now, aren't there sometimes people who, that when they have a shit day, they will make sure everybody is going to have a shit day at the same time. So I hope you're not that person. But importantly is make sure that you really reflect on your communication skills. And one really good way, obviously doing public speaking workshops as well, is just video yourself. Video yourself and look at these 3 key aspects. Put the phone across the room and do a 10-minute presentation, 5 minutes, and see how you come across. It's very eye-opening because you're your best critique. If you think that a good presentation or good way to communicate is very monotone and you know you can hardly hear them, or whatever that might be, then great, you carry on that way, but then make sure that that is consistent with what you're offering to your clients or to your staff at the same time. But make sure you do that exercise. It's very, very eye-opening, and it will tell you whether you are engaging in your conversation. And to be able to charge people, you need to be able to charge people. So you need to be able to make some kind of impact on them. You've all got wonderful businesses. You've been sharing those today and how you want to help people. Now, importantly is that if you're, for example, helping someone with debt, now it's very horrible situation for a person to be in, you know, and whatever that situation might be in. But if you understand them and you speak their language and you get them excited about the possibilities you can offer with your service, they are probably going to like you. They will trust you. And there's a book that I would recommend reading. It's called Speed of Trust. How quickly can you get a person to trust you? What do you do in terms of your marketing? Because if you do marketing really well, sales becomes not so important because the journey has been created for the customer beforehand. So think about that. So how to really, really briefly just optimize your results. Awareness. Build on your strengths and unique selling point. Accept those strengths and weaknesses and move on. Stop the self-sabotage, but then you gotta focus on abundance. Focus on opportunities around you. I say that there are 2 types of people, problem focused or solution focused. If a challenge comes across, are you the one who thinks what's the worst that could happen and concentrates on the problems and complaining, or are you solution focused? And that's what managers are, right? They just focus on how to fix the problem. So you gotta be that person, but you gotta change your language and invest in you. Strive to be the best that you can be with the skill set and knowledge that you have been given and that you can build on. So invest in you and focus on really becoming the best so that you can offer the best possible value for your customers. But then you got to be really honest with yourself, because if you already had all the answers, you would already have everything you want, right? So that's why we have to admit that we need sometimes other people just to push you over that edge, and that's exactly what you're doing in business as well. Now, a few quick strategies, very self-explanatory, some of them, but self and business analysis, something that I actually do a lot online as well. Very, very quick and efficient to do. But then write about your perfect day. What is your perfect day in business like? What is your perfect day in life like? Because you know what? That will exactly tell you what is important for you in life. Because when you're building a business, business is really the gateway to the lifestyle you really want. Right? It's not the 9 to 5. You will only be limited to certain income, right? 9 to 5s, whatever that is. You cannot achieve certain lifestyle if you always depend on a salary, isn't it? Or at least somebody else will control your schedule completely. But that's just my point of view. Take feedback from everything. Even the roll of the eyes from a person, you know, you start talking to them and they roll their eyes. That's feedback. So, take feedback from everything, whatever people say to you and do to you. It's how they respond to you. It's because of the way that you've communicated with them. And this is especially good in relationships. Very, very important in relationships. But then focus on personal and professional development, because you gotta identify the gaps that you have in your current knowledge. Nothing wrong about that. Don't self-sabotage, don't dwell in self-pity and think, oh my God, you know, I'm never gonna learn it. You know, if my mother in her 60s can learn to use Skype, then you can do anything after several years of trying to teach her one little thing. Seriously, sometimes it just takes another person to tell you exactly what to do. I used to be very stubborn, and I'm still very stubborn, but I also want to progress quickly. And that's why there are lots of available amazing training that you can do to progress quickly and make sure that your marketing needs to be good. And you got to create the environment where you can achieve what you want. Some people say, well, why am I not making 10 grand a month? Well, did you put a system in place? That's what you got to ask. If you keep doing the 9 to 5 and you are completely drained, you're not going to have any energy to do more work. Creating a system, something that works for you in your favor. You can't achieve certain type of income just through pure physical work, you know. That just doesn't work like that. But that's where business automation comes in. But you got to be very honest with yourself. Where are you? Where do you want to be? And what is that perfect day like? And then make that gap, make that analysis in between. Is what is it that you need to learn and start? Don't procrastinate over it. You're only disadvantaging yourself. Some people have a million excuses, but that's only disadvantaging you. So if you want any more information about any of the business training, different types of marketing and sales training, also I do a lot of quick strategy sessions, workshops and team building, something particularly with regards to psychometrics in terms of leadership training and change management, but also those business masterminds for people who are focused on business automation and marketing automation. And I've put my card there as well. What I'd actually like you to do, if you want, is you can give me your card or I can grab your details, because what I'd like you to do is actually I'd like to give you a free gift on 7 steps to entrepreneurial success. It's got full of videos and little strategies, quick mindset techniques to again optimize your mindset and your performance. And that's what it's all about. Taking those right strategies to make the changes in your life and in your business that you want. And importantly, for your life to change, you have to change. So thank you, and sorry for going on.